Welcome to the Sally O'Neill podcast, where I get to be your clinical nutritionist for a quick snippet of time and take you through evidence-based topics and tools that will help you reach your goals faster and more sustainably than ever before. Now, my mission is to empower you with the really juicy bits of my nutrition degree and experience in clinical practice so you can become the scientist of your own body, build a really beautiful relationship with food and exercise, and then hopefully fire me because you're utterly self-sufficient with it. Now, before we dive in today, I've got a little favor to ask. If this podcast brings you any value, I would love your feedback with a 5-star rating and even a sentence or two about what you loved or what you're going to implement, because it really helps me create more content and I love seeing it more than you know. Now, a quick reminder to please action these episodes at home. It's all too easy to sit back and passively listen to these things, but my podcasts are designed to help you actually change your behavior for better health outcomes. Even if it's just one small action or shift in perspective that you take away, I really want you to put it into practice when the episode finishes. And finally, if you're following me over on YouTube today, don't forget to hit subscribe. Now, today's episode is all about being really practical. I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to preparing and planning my days and weeks. So I love doing it annually for a really big picture view. It's right up my alley and we're going to do that together today. Now, I love reviewing what I've done well and what I've achieved and what lessons I'm bringing forward into the new year. 2024 has been a really weird one for many of us. I've personally spent the entire year single, which is a new statistic for me. I also became the mum of a really beautiful teacup cavoodle, Poppy, who brings me so much joy. I traveled to Japan on a whim and I pretty much just giggled for 7 days straight with my best mate Viv, who actually owns a vibrator company called Girls Get Off, and we were doing a lot of market research. Now, I also had some rubbish experiences. I was assaulted by a delivery driver outside my own apartment. I've been struggling with some really confusing and frustrating health issues, which honestly, for someone who spends so much time dedicated to their health and wellness, doing all the exercise, staying hydrated, eating all the good things, it's actually been quite a frustrating journey for me. I know you guys have had probably an equal amount of ups and downs as well, and it is very humbling to look back. So with those wins and losses, and as a new year opens and another one closes, we're going to wipe the slate clean and make fresh plans for the year ahead. Today, together, that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to be a lot more practical than normal. And as a clinical nutritionist, I've seen firsthand the most successful transformations happen when we take a really balanced and sustainable approach, which is why I'm a huge advocate of the 80-20 principle, where we aim for consistency 80% of the time and flexibility for the other 20% of the time. Now, if you followed me over on Instagram for any amount of time, you know I harp on about this all the time because it works. So when we remove the pressure of perfection and embrace a more balanced mindset, we actually create far more sustainable habits that can actually last a lifetime. Now, think of it as building a beautiful lifestyle rather than following a rigid plan. Okay, so we're going to dive in today on this workshop on setting meaningful, achievable wellness goals for 2025. And as expected, I've done my research and come to you with science-backed strategies that actually work. Now, my job is to help you apply the studies from lab to real life. So you're going to grab a pen and paper because we are going to do these practical exercises together in real time. You may need to pause as we work through together. And we're going to go through some evidence-based goal-setting frameworks that I've developed over the years in clinical practice. I've carefully structured this into 5 distinct parts, each designed to build upon the previous section, so don't jump ahead. And it'll ensure that you have all the right tools needed for successful goal achievement. So I'm going to walk you through how we're going to break this down to start off with. Now, the 5 key parts that we're going to cover today will help build your 2025 goals list. Part 1 is understanding the science of habit formation. Then part 2, we're going to do a vision mapping exercise. Part 3 will be the implementation strategy, so how you're going to basically put it into practice. Part 4 is how we apply the 80-20 framework to that strategy. Part 5 is the accountability and system setup. So let's dive into part 1. We'll begin by understanding the science of habit formation. Before we set out the goals, I think it's really important to understand this because it actually helps you to create and maintain habits long term. So research from behavioral psychology shows us that successful habit formation follows a really specific pattern, which is cue, routine, and reward. And you'll know very well if you've ever read the book by James Clear called Atomic Habits. If you haven't, it's the beginning of the new year and it's the perfect time to go and grab yourself a copy. Now, take a moment to think about one habit that you have successfully built in the past, and I want you to write that down now. And then I want you to think about the cue to the action of the habit. So what was it? What routine did you follow? And what reward did you get at the end of that? So understanding that pattern is the crucial part for building your new habit stack. So an example for me might be with my morning exercise routine. So the cue is placing my workout clothes next to my bed the night before. And then the routine is doing the 45-minute workout first thing in the morning. And then the reward is that exercise endorphin rush and feeling super energized and focused for the day. This simple pattern has really helped me maintain my habit for the last 20 years now. So pause here and take time to think about any habits that you repeat day in and day out. Which ones serve you well? Which ones do you perhaps need to change? And what is the cue and the habit and the reward for each of those? On to part 2. We're moving on to the vision mapping exercise. So I want you to write down the following 6 areas of your life that you want to see growth in 2025. Number 1 is health and fitness, of course. Number 2, mental well-being. 3, relationships. 4, career. 5, financial. And 6, personal development. Now, under each category, I want you to just write down one specific goal. So I'll give you an example of what I might write down in those categories. So health and fitness might be complete 3 strength sessions per week and meal prep every Sunday. And then for mental well-being, it might be practice 10 minutes of meditation each morning, which I'm honestly horrible at. So that's definitely on the list this year. Relationships might be schedule 1 quality activity with friends and family a week. Career could be complete 1 professional development course per quarter. Financial might be something like 20% of your monthly income goes into investments like index funds. And personal development, it might be read 2 non-fiction books per month and then implement the key learnings. So take a moment to write down your specific goals for each category. And remember the SMART principle from school that you will have had hammered into you. So smart, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So pause me right here and get to homework. Here's my 2025 example of a SMART framework to help it concrete in your mind. So instead of a vague goal like get healthier, you might write something like complete 4 strength sessions a week, focusing on compound exercises, and then track my progress in the 80/20 coaching app. And I'll have all that done by March 2025. So it uses the SMART framework by being specific. So it's 3 or 4 sessions with compound exercises. It's measurable. So I'm tracking it in the app. It's achievable because it's got a realistic frequency. It's relevant because it's aligned with my health goals. And it's time bound because I want to do it by March 25. Cool. So you're making waves. On to part 3, which is the implementation strategy. It's the fun part. Let's break down how you're actually going to achieve the goals using the latest science-backed research in behavioral science. Because studies show that people who actually break down their goals into small, manageable steps are 42% more likely to succeed. So for each goal you've written, I want you to work through these critical implementation steps that will dramatically increase your chances of success. Identify your minimum viable action. That is the smallest possible step you can take each day. For example, if your goal is to meditate, you can start with just 1 minute each morning. If it's strength training, you might begin with 5 minutes of exercise. So remember, starting small builds this confidence and it builds momentum. So write down now any potential obstacles and solutions in detail. I want you to be specific. So if your morning workouts are your goal, you might want to list barriers like late nights, cold mornings, gym closure, and then come up with backup plans for each scenario. So you've got a bit of a problem-solving situation, and that's crucial for your long-term success as well. And then create specific implementation intention. So if X happens, then I will do Y. For example, if my alarm goes off at 6, I'll immediately put on my workout clothes. Or if I finish dinner, I'll prepare lunch for tomorrow before I watch TV. Research again shows that these concrete action plans can help double or triple your success rate. So be really specific. And you can even set up environmental triggers to support those new habits. So it means deliberately designing your environment for success. So you might want to place your workout clothes at the side of your bed, as I mentioned. You might want to keep healthy snacks at eye level in your fridge, or set phone reminders for important habits, or even just remove temptations that might derail your progress out of the cupboard. For part 4, we're going to dive into the 80/20 principle and how it helps with goal achievement. Now, you remember the Pareto principle, and it's the basis of all my nutrition coaching. It's not about settling for less, but it's about optimizing your efforts for maximal sustainable results. Research from the Journal of Health and Psychology shows that individuals who adopt flexible approaches to their goals are 60% more likely to maintain long-term success compared to those pursuing perfection. So the science behind this is actually really fascinating, because when we aim for perfection, our bodies actually release higher levels of cortisol, which is our stress hormone, and it can actually sabotage our progress. So those rigid all or nothing approaches lead to higher rates of goal abandonment and, worse, increased likelihood of rebound effects, which is not what we need. Now let's apply the Pareto 80-20 principle to your health goals. So if you're working on improving nutrition, focus on mastering the fundamentals just 80% of the time. So it might be adequate protein, it might be 5 to 7 servings of veg a day, it might be whole foods that you enjoy and consistent hydration. But then the 20%, that's your flexibility buffer. So it's not really just cheat meals or time off, it's your way of accounting for social events or special occasions or simply when life just doesn't go to plan. So the flexibility buffer is really crucial for psychological well-being and that long-term adherence that I keep speaking of. For people who incorporate planned flexibility into their health routines, they actually hit their habits an average of 3.4 times for longer than those who don't. And it's that built-in sustainability that makes this principle so powerful and why it's the only way that I will program for my clients. Now, you're going to plan for flexibility with the goals that you've written down. So, for example, if you're going to clean up your diet in 2025, you might only expect to achieve that for 17 out of 21 meals a week. Now, final part 5, your accountability system and the setup. So research consistently demonstrates that profound impact of accountability on goal achievement. Loads of studies have shown that performance management indicate that implementing structured accountability system can increase the likelihood of success by 95%. It's a remarkable statistic, really, when you think about it. And it's well documented in peer-reviewed literature, and it reflects the powerful influence of external commitment on mechanisms for human behavior. You need to go and Google those stats, honestly, it's quite shocking. The psychology behind it is fascinating because when we take our goals and we make them public and establish regular check-ins with people, we activate both external and internal motivational systems that drive us to success, which is why I have my VIP clients check in every week and my 80-20 members check in at least once a fortnight. And if you're not tracking, well, you better believe that you're going to get an email or a text with strategies to address it from me. Okay, so let's harness this powerful tool to personalize your accountability framework for 2025. I want you to choose a comprehensive tracking method. So it might be a journal, it might be my app, it might be something completely different. And then establish a structured check-in schedule for those dates, an amount of dates that feels good for you. Then you're going to find a supportive community or partner that aligns with your goals and values and design a meaningful reward system for when you hit milestones along your journey. Okay, so if you need to re-listen to that, please go back. But now you've got your framework. So before we wrap up, one final thing, I want you to write down why for each goal that you've written down. Connecting to your deeper reasoning behind these goals will help increase motivation and follow through. So there you have it, your 5-step blueprint for all the ways you need to hit your goals in 2025. You better be burning to make some changes after you've watched this episode, or I haven't done my job properly. Okay, so remember that this isn't about creating the perfect plan, it's about creating a sustainable one. The small, consistent steps in the right direction and trusting the process is where you're going to see the most achievement. So next week, we're going to dive into more nutrition strategies that align with your goals whilst maintaining that crucial 80-20 balance. Don't forget to share your goal setting process with me on social media. I would love to see how you're going to implement these strategies. Until then, keep experimenting, stay curious, and remember that you are the scientist of your own body.